We are here for the Energy Perspectives podcast at the Carbon Solution Forum in San Diego. I have with me Trevor Best, who's the CEO of Syzygy Plasmonics, and Kevin Norfleet, who is the Global Sustainability Director at Celanese. Maybe to do a little bit of a level set, could you each give a little bit of background on what your sort of participation here, what drove your participation here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go first. So with Syzygy, we are making a new type of chemical reactor, one that allows us to use light instead of heat to catalyze chemical reactions. In this, we are able to combine very efficient light sources that are powered by renewable electricity with traditional catalysts to enable chemical reactions in new ways. Long story short, we have adapted this technology to take biogas and turn it into sustainable aviation fuel. And so, here at the Carbon Solutions Forum, groups looking for low carbon solutions for fuel and others, the engagement with California Air Resources Board, et cetera, and others attending the conference, let me know that this was a high priority one we should definitely attend.
All right, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, and so Celanese, if you're not familiar with us, we're a fairly large chemical specialty materials company. We make a range of commodity chemicals as well as specialty plastics. Particularly though, for us, we have a large carbon capture and utilization project where we turn CO2 emissions into methanol that we then turn into a wide range of other products. Beyond that, I also see us as having a really interesting spot in the value chain where we have a lot of integrated processes where we can really connect innovation in the energy space to what end consumer, consumer-facing companies are demanding.
And Kevin, I might start with you. Internal decision made to build out this facility. What was the process like as that went through sort of your investment committee, capital committee? How did you come to the decision that this was a financially viable path?
Yeah. It's a great question. I tell people this when we talk about this project. I mean, we are certainly fortunate to have a number of stars align with the project that really made it make sense. And I mean, if you go back and kind of the history, I mean, this is a project that we started up really in the beginning of 2024, but had really first said this was something we were looking at a number of years before that. So this goes back quite a ways. But yeah, we're fortunate in this project, the CCU project I talked about, it's a part of a joint venture we have with Mitsui within a Fairway Methanol joint venture. But, we are fortunate that we have some fairly high concentration CO2 streams in close proximity to our site in Clear Lake, Texas. We also really need methanol. And so, for us, we convert methanol into a lot of different end products. And so we're really able to bring a lot of unique factors together to be able to make the project make sense in a way that is challenging for others, but at the same time, I think is really important in helping us to create a market for things made from CO2. And really that's one of the big struggles and kind of opportunities we see is we want to be able to keep doing more of this, but this initial project, really helped us kind of get started on that journey.
That's great. Trevor, you're trying to sell a decarbonization solution effectively. And you're coming at this from the other side, right? Not the inside making the decision, but from the outside trying to convince somebody else to make this investment decision. And curious from your perspective, sort of what's that first big hurdle you have to get over to get people to start to move this process through their decision sort of network?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on which decision maker I'm talking to. Different, putting a big project together takes a village, so to speak, with a lot of different parties and a lot of different decision makers. Specifically from the investment side, it all comes down to economics, and I think you could really boil it down to a single word, and that's a viable offtake. I guess that's two words, but the one word would have been offtake. The two words is viable offtake, important qualifier. For us, we were able to secure an offtake with Trafigura for 100% of the volume of our first commercial plant, as well as very large capacity reservations against future plants, and that's what is convincing my current backers to finance our next facility.
And that offtake is for the full life of the facility.
For the first facility, yes.
Okay. That helps a lot, obviously.
It definitely does. And in this, that's the, if we wanted to boil it down to one thing, that's the one thing. But behind that, project needs to be economic. It's got to clear certain hurdle rates. And this all gets back to, what people are willing to pay for and what kind of incentive structures you can tap into to make your project viable.
And within that, you've got a clear signal on the price side from your off-taker, but what incentives have you tapped into to help build out the rest of that financial story?
So for Syzygy, we have a scale-up journey. We start with a smaller commercial plant, and this is the first one we do, and this proves out, supply chains, it proves out technology, et cetera. Then in the future, we build much larger, very economic facilities that will tap into incentives. For the first one, we actually aren't tapping into any incentives. We are going to be selling into mandate markets, and so you sometimes hear about the U.S. and Europe, where the U.S. likes the carrot and Europe likes the stick. In the European markets, if you don't supply enough sustainable aviation fuel, or you don't consume enough sustainable aviation fuel, you get hit with the penalties. And so our purchase price for our fuel is far below the penalty levels. So not quite an incentive, but is serving the same kind of financial forcing function.
No, and there's certainly a school of thought that the stick is actually more effective than the carrot in trying to get people to change behavior, but that's a separate conversation for another time. Kevin, sort of taking that same question and handing it back to you here, what is that driver on the consumer side? Like what's the pull that's allowing you to define excess revenue from this facility for the same product you would otherwise be selling without the capture and utilization piece?
I mean that's the million or billion dollar question in this space is, how do you create that end market demand, particularly when we're talking about non-fuel markets? I mean, in fuels, for better or worse, there's mandates, there's the forcing function, that really, somebody has to do it. And so if you can do it most cost effectively, then you've got a really good thing. In the materials space, you don't have that. It's all voluntary. It's all more about marketing, about companies, trying to differentiate themselves, or companies needing to position their brand or their company's name in a certain way, and that's really what ends up driving more of their action. And so for us, it becomes a very different thing in that it's more about, okay, how do we take what we're doing with, in our case, our CCU project, and translate that to what do our customers want so that they can turn around and use that to position themselves as their customers or their consumers and that kind of thing. So what that means in reality is it can look like a lot of different things. I mean, for some companies, it may be, hey, I want to be able to say my product's a certain amount of sustainable content, where I can say, hey, there's a circular claim or a circulative narrative where we're taking CO2 and turning it into something. For others, it may be just a straightforward, I want my carbon footprint to be lower because I've got a scope 3 target that it's really critical that I progress on. So it looks like a lot of different things, and it's frankly a lot of different answers. It's not even consistent within one end market. Some customers in end market may say, I'm really all about the content. Others may be the footprint, and sometimes it's, I need all of them, and here's how we think about it. So yeah, it's a very diverse set, but at the end of the day, it all has to tie back to kind of that marketing pull for all the segments.
So I'm fascinated. When you went down this road, was it built off of known customer demand, or was there a set of assumptions made around if we build it, they will come?
Probably a little more of the latter. I mean, I kind of alluded to this earlier in the conversation. I mean, we were fortunate, a lot of stars aligned in a way to make our CCU uniquely economical, which really enabled us to take a much more proactive approach to the space of saying, hey, let's really go out and build this thing without completely having it all figured out, because the economics are close enough that it works. And so that's frankly a great luxury, and give a lot of credit to the leadership of Celanese that we've been able to do that, and now that we have it, have been able to take it into the market and build and prove that value and start to build that up. But that is a challenge, and frankly we didn't have that at the beginning, and have been able to work towards that. But the way I talk about it to people is, for us it's really about making sure we're doing the work now to create the business case for the next project.
And just one more sort of add-on question to that. After you started to put these products in the market, did you find there was more appetite for them than you had initially projected?
It's a process, and particularly what I would say when we talk about carbon capture and utilization, there's a lot of education that's had to go into it. I mean, one of the things we found is that the certification infrastructure in the materials space for how do you communicate a claim about something made from CO2 really wasn't very well developed. And that's not terribly surprising because there's not a lot of people doing it. And so, we've had to build that. And so Well, I would say that there's definitely a lot of interest, and there's a lot about CCU that I think uniquely makes a lot of sense. At the same time, it's not something that kind of fits cleanly in, the box of recycled content or the box of bio content. And so, we've been having to build a lot of that infrastructure to help create the market.
Interesting moment in time. Trevor, you're now in the process of financing to build this project where you have the offtake. Is
That is correct.
and can I ask what your expectation is on how that will be financed? Is that all sort of direct equity from investors, or are you looking to borrow as part of the build out for that facility?
There will be a debt component, but it's not going to be like a traditional project financing where it's like 80% debt, 20% equity. That's going to come for the next project after this.
Okay, and for this project, and interested to see how you're thinking about the next project, sort of where are people focused when they're asking these questions, sort of other than the offtake? Is that a creditworthy counterparty, and is that contract solid? Are there other tension points that you're finding in the underwriting process, whether from investors or lenders?
I mean, I could sit here and rattle them off: permitting, insurance, tech risk, etc. But the primary hurdle that we've seen in this is the offtake being like the willing customer to purchase it, and that kind of like our offtake is fixed price, and so showing like a very strong conviction around a certain price point for this cleaner molecule for a certain amount of time. We are quite lucky to. I mean, luck doesn't have much to do with it. Considering where we're priced, but I feel very fortunate to have that, because I think it's tough, as you mentioned. There is not nearly the demand for green molecules that the world had hoped a couple years ago.
It has been slower to develop than I think everyone was thinking might be the case. Now, as you look forward to that next project, have you thought about how to address some of these issues as you go forward and build a sort of easier to support the financing kind of box?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons we were able to secure this, and one of the reasons that we have been as successful as we are, is when you take our tech package and you scale it up to a full-size project, we can start to compete with traditional fuels, head to head on cost. So whenever I'm looking at my final end game costs for project number 7, 10 years from now, I'm looking at price structures that can give regular jet fuel a run for their money. And like that's the holy grail. And so this will take a little bit more tech innovation. It'll take very large scale projects and some more developed infrastructure. So I wouldn't expect anyone to hope for this in the next 5 years. But definitely when we start looking at like 10 years out, we see a pretty clear line of sight to being able to achieve that. And that's my plan, not count on the green premium.
And as you're having the conversations, and I'm thinking this is more on the investor side than the lender side, are they drawn in by that long-term vision? Do they see this as sort of a long-term ride, or is this they're looking to hit their return hurdle sort of on this project, period, end of story?
I mean, this is kind of like a gating function. The ones who just want to look at this one project and they need to hit their return hurdle for this first project, they probably aren't going to be ones to bite and dig in. But the ones that we are getting a lot of traction with right now are the ones who do have a 10, 20, 30-year plan and are looking to, fund not one, but 20 plants, across the world over, 15 years. And so those are the ones that our story really resonates with. And they're like, okay, hey, we'll get very creative for the first one. For the second ones, we won't have to get creative, but you probably still won't get like the best terms. By the time we hit the final phase 10 years from now, and we've got a long-term partner and we just go stamp these out across the world.
That's fantastic. Kevin, when you built out your facility, was that internally financed, or did you look at external for capital at all?
In our case, it was internally financed. I mean, it's through our joint venture, so Celanese and Mitsui both together working on that. But yeah, I mean, we're fortunate, different spot in the landscape from, startup versus a, established company. We were able to do it ourselves. But yeah, it's certainly, still the similar challenges of, we have to have a business case that makes sense. We're, I think, unique in being able to put that together. But yeah, definitely as we look to hopefully do more, being able to ultimately get to where, you have that business case, regardless of where the money's coming from, you've got to have that business case that says there's a way that this pencils out, whether it's incentives, whether it's the customer demand, whatever that is.
And I know we're getting sort of towards the end of our allotted time, and so one question to each, same question to each of you, which is if you had sort of the ability to pull one lever, sort of to make this market work better, what would it be?
What I would say is just better visibility and kind of usability of carbon footprint data. I mean, when we look at CCU, and particularly how it fits into our value chain, it is a uniquely powerful option in terms of being able to deliver carbon footprint benefits, sustainable content in a really cost-effective way. And so, there's a lot there that we really like. The challenge is, we've got to be able to have the benefits get through value chains. And we're able to be pretty successful at that where we have the integrated chain within our own company. But to really have it scale to the next step, we need that to also move successfully through longer chains where there's maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 companies handing materials off before it gets to the end consumer.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to double click on what Kevin said a little bit because, listen, I'm a startup founder. I am all like ambition and like, let's go change the world. We have a very unique technology that can do something that nobody else can do that gives us like a crazy value prop. All great. But at the end of the day, if I change sustainable aviation fuel, it's just one industry. It's, very meaningful. But if I had to pull a single lever, it is a harmonized ledger-based carbon accounting system that everybody around the world starts to agree to, because without that, you can't actually tell if you're doing good or not. And without that, whenever like you talk about getting, 6 down the chain in your supply chain, like the edges get fuzzy and you start like not lining up in a total carbon balance. So I've done a lot of life cycle assessment in my time. And if I could get one thing, ledger-based, harmonized carbon accounting system.
Yeah, people won't pay for what they don't trust, full stop.
No, it makes perfect sense. And having that sort of nice, clear baseline that everybody could work from the same sort of set of metrics would be a very interesting marketplace sort of concept. Well, thank you both so much. This was fantastic. I had a lot of fun.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.